NBC Royal contributor Camilla Tominey is with us now. And Camilla, no word yet from the palace. It seems that they're going to take their time and calibrate a response. But what is the expectation? Do you think Buckingham Palace, do you think the Queen or Charles or William will speak and give their own interview?
I don't think there'll be any interviews forthcoming, not least from the Queen. She's never spoken in that capacity before. All of the royals will be out in force this week at one point or another. So Charles and Camilla are out today. The Cambridges are expected to be out on public duties on Thursday. The Queen's done a Zoom event this morning. But equally, yes, I think a statement's going to come. But when it does come, it's going to be pretty short and sweet. I think acknowledging what has been said in the interview, but also saying that they want to extend once again that kind of familial tie to Harry and Meghan in treating them as members of the family in what has now played out as this very public rift. And this is the problem, isn't it? When you have, as the couple referred to it with Oprah, this family firm. It's not just a family, but it's also a family business. And sometimes the lines can be blurred, not least, I think, in when Harry refers to the fact that he was blocked from seeing his grandmother at Sandringham, that he expressed concern that his father wasn't returning his calls. You also get the impression when the couple refer to the institution that they're referring to palace aides, perhaps, who have come between their familial relationships. I don't know if you guys picked that up, but it's quite difficult when the waters are muddied by staff involvement in very private matters.
Yeah, but don't people have their cell phones? I don't get that.
Yeah. I don't get that either. Camilla,
that's the point that I think some people miss.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you or I going to meet our grandmothers on a Saturday afternoon for a cup of tea, as you would do in Britain, right? Tea with Granny is scheduled. As Meghan pointed out there, when first seeing the Queen, even in a private setting, the royal women will curtsy and the royal men will bow. Now, I know for an American audience that sounds strange, this idea of initially addressing your grandmother as Your Majesty and then Granny or Mom. That's strange, isn't it? But that is how the royals operate. Appointments are scheduled, and they do have very close staff in the former private secretaries who, you could argue, have probably overreached in this situation, managing these relationships. You've also got a situation where there are three households competing for publicity. There's historically always been tensions. There's always been briefing and a degree of paranoia about different households briefing against each other. Equally, the narrative that the couple have given to Oprah is very much that they didn't feel supported. Behind palace gates, there's a sense that they feel that they did try and bend over backwards to accommodate the couple's needs, but that increasingly Harry and Meghan were operating in a silo and basically cutting themselves off from family and friends.
Camilla, something interesting. You talk about the differences between here and there. They did one of those snap polls in the UK, and they said that 47% of the people were Team Queen, and only 20-some% of the people were Team Harry and Meghan. So does the royal family care so much now? If they know that that may be how it's breaking down in England, is that good enough?
Well, if there are allegations of racism, which they have been, against individual family members, we still don't know whom, and this idea that the institution is somehow not up to date with the times, then I think that's worrying for the monarchy, regardless of what the opinion polls say. Obviously, in Britain, there is a sense of loyalty towards the Queen, not least at 94 and with her 99-year-old husband in hospital, as it has always been the case in this country, and indeed perhaps also in America. You know, people have formed opinions about what they think of Meghan, what they think of Harry now that they're married, what they think about their move to America. Some people, particularly there's a generational divide here. So younger people are like, yeah, good on them, they've escaped and now they're happy. And older people are thinking, oh, they've been disloyal to the institution and to Britain. And there's a degree perhaps of patriotism around the fact that they've left Queen and country behind. So I think you're always going to get that divide, but that doesn't mean that the royal family doesn't have to deal with what are really serious claims that have been made with Oprah.
Absolutely. All right, Camilla, lots to unpack there. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.